Princess Program. Book 1. Chapter 4, A Plan for Natalie. Natalie had always been a fortress of confidence, but something was different lately. Chris couldn't put his finger on it until he had his first encounter with Marcus, Natalie's ex-boyfriend. One evening, as Chris returned to the dorm after a study session, he spotted a tall figure leaning against the entrance. Marcus, with his intimidating stance and sharp gaze, stopped Chris in his tracks. "Hey," Marcus said, his voice low and threatening. "You seen Natalie?" Chris froze. The way Marcus spoke her name sent a chill down his spine. "She's not here," he said carefully, clutching his bag tightly. Marcus scoffed but didn't press further. "Tell her we are not done," he muttered before walking away, leaving Chris rattled. When Chris confronted Natalie about the incident, she initially brushed him off. "It's nothing," she said, her tone clipped. "Don't worry about it." But Chris wouldn't let it go. "Natalie, he's harassing you." "This isn't nothing. Let me help." After some coaxing, Natalie finally opened up. She explained that Marcus couldn't accept their breakup and had been showing up unannounced, trying to intimidate her into taking him back. "I don't want to involve anyone else," she admitted. "I can handle it." Chris shook his head. "You shouldn't have to handle it alone. We'll come up with a plan." The next time Marcus appeared near the dorm, Chris was ready. Dressed in his princess attire, Chris kept his cool, using his kindness to disarm Marcus. Chris stood beside Natalie as Marcus approached, his posture exuding tension. Natalie's arms were crossed, her expression a mix of irritation and resolve. She didn't wait for Marcus to speak. "What do you think you're doing here, Marcus?" Natalie snapped, her tone cutting through the tension like a blade. "I've told you before, this needs to stop. Or should I take this to the school?" Marcus stiffened but managed a sneer. "Take what to the school?" "I'm not doing anything." Natalie's eyes narrowed. "Oh, really?" "Because showing up uninvited and intimidating me sounds a lot like harassment. And if I report that, your sports scholarship might not look so secure anymore. I know you can't have anything on your disciplinary record." The sneer faltered, replaced by a flash of unease. Chris watched the exchange, his heart pounding. He took a small step forward, placing a gentle hand on Natalie's arm. "Nat, let me handle this," Chris said softly, his voice calm and kind. Natalie hesitated, her jaw tightening, but she nodded and stepped back, crossing her arms as she watched. Chris turned to Marcus, his tone warm but firm. "Marcus, I get it. This isn't easy for you. You care about Natalie, and losing someone you care about hurts. But this, showing up like this, it's not helping. It's just making things harder for her." Marcus's scowl remained, though it wavered as Chris's calm words cut through the tension. His fists, once clenched, loosened slightly, but his shoulders stayed stiff. "You don't get it," Marcus muttered, avoiding eye contact. "We were good together. She meant everything to me." Chris took a small step closer, his tone steady but gentle. "I do get it, Marcus. Losing someone you care about feels like your whole world is falling apart. But this, showing up here like this, it's only pushing her further away. Don't you see that?" Marcus's jaw tightened, his breathing uneven. "It's not that simple," he said, his voice low. "I don't know how to just move on. What am I supposed to do?" Chris softened his expression, his empathy shining through. "You start by letting go. That doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it didn't matter. It means accepting that it's over and giving yourself the space to heal. Focus on what you need, Marcus. Focus on yourself for now." Marcus's shoulders sagged slightly, his scowl fading into something more resigned. He glanced briefly at Natalie, then back at Chris. Maybe you're right," he muttered. I don't know how to deal with it." "One step at a time," Chris said softly. "It's not easy, but it's worth it. And it starts with respecting Natalie's boundaries." Marcus hesitated for a moment longer before exhaling deeply, a reluctant nod following. "Okay," he said finally. I'll leave her alone." Natalie uncrossed her arms, her expression softening slightly. "Marcus, I'm sorry," she said, her tone firm but less sharp. That's all I've been asking for. Marcus looked at Chris, his expression clouded with shame. I'm usually not this person, he admitted, his voice low. I don't know why I let it get this far. I hope that someday I won't be remembered for this. Natalie is lucky to have you. Chris's kind expression didn't waver. You've already taken the first step by admitting that, Marcus. What matters now is how you move forward. Give yourself the chance to be better. Marcus nodded slowly, his shoulders slumping as he turned and walked away, his steps steady but weighed down by his thoughts. As his figure disappeared, Natalie let out a long breath and glanced at Chris. Her sharp demeanor softened, and she studied him with a newfound respect. I've got to admit, I didn't think the whole kindness approach would work. But you handled that better than I ever could have. You didn't just stand up for me, you found a way to diffuse the situation and even help him. That takes something special. Chris smiled, a mix of relief and pride washing over him. Sometimes people just need someone to listen. Natalie gave him a small smile, her respect for him clear. Thanks for standing up for me. I mean it. Always, Chris replied. The two stood in silence for a moment, a sense of calm settling over them. Though the confrontation had ended, it was clear to both that something had shifted, not just in Marcus, but in their friendship as well. For Natalie, this was a turning point. She realized Chris wasn't just a student thrust into her care, he was someone she could trust. Over late-night conversations and shared laughs, their bond deepened. Natalie began to see Chris as not only an ally but a true friend. Thanks for having my back, Natalie said one evening as they sat in their dorm. I didn't think anyone would. Chris grinned. Always. That's what friends are for. From that moment on, their friendship blossomed, built on mutual respect and unwavering support. Together, they faced the challenges of the Princess program with renewed confidence, knowing they had each other's backs.
Princess Program. Book 1, to be continued.